So as we know, bots have just been added to PUBG on console, and this has greater implications for how bots are going to be distributed to every other platform that exists. But here's the basically first testing grounds of these bots, and I played for a good couple of hours today to sort of, jump into game with them and figure out how the bots work, what they, tend to do, and how you can identify one more importantly. And I'm basically going to give you my experience and my rundown on this today. So let me give you a couple disclaimers so all of this makes sense. First of all, I played these games on PlayStation 4, and of course, crossplay is now enabled on PUBG, so you can play between Xbox and PS4. The lobbies are mixed now, but either way, it didn't seem to make too much of a difference. And also, of course, console is not my native platform, right? I hardly ever play on console. Mostly, I'm on PC playing mouse and keyboard. This game just doesn't feel right to me on controller. So that being said, I have very little playtime on console, thus meaning I should have relatively lower statistics, meaning that my lobbies should have theoretically more bots if what they said in the patch notes is true, because basically players that are more skilled or higher up in the ranking overall leaderboards are going to have less incidences of bots, and I guess newer players or people of lower KDs and skill are going to have more bots in their lobbies. But I gotta tell you, to be honest, I'm not really sure why, even though my account is pretty much new and doesn't have that much experience. I didn't run into too many bots, hardly at all. In my games, I took a lot of effort to pay attention to the kill feed to see how many names were bot names, and that's actually a good way to identify them. Bots in PUBG can usually be identified by having some like random string of word names plus an underscore and then a sequence of numbers. It's just like a name underscore and then usually like 4 or 5 numbers, and that's how you can realistically pick up on a bot either in the kill feed or when you kill one. In terms of their behavior, yes, they are very basic bots. Now, this was something that they did mention in those patch notes, as this is literally like the first implementation of them, and they're going to continue to grow and evolve as time goes on. But right now in the game, bots have very, very little functions. Pretty much they only can walk around. Bots cannot drive whatsoever. They also cannot swim, if I remember correctly. So just generally, they're going to behave how you would expect a, very basic bot to behave inside of PUBG. But here's the really weird part about all of this is that the rate at which I found bots was so infinitely low, they may as well not even been there at all. So for example, if a lobby's only filled up to around 80 players, or let's say 85, the rest can be bots, but are usually going to be smacked down within the first 1 minute of gameplay. And then the rest is just going to play out as a normal match. Also, something important to know, the bots cannot lean or crouch, I believe, so their movement is also incredibly restricted. If you see some kind of player either leaning back and forth or even, crouch spamming for that matter, then you can easily identify that that is in fact a real player as well, because bots are just physically not able to do that right now. And I think this kind of behavior function for very new players is absolutely fine because they're not really going to notice a difference either way. The thing is, once you're learning the fundamentals of PUBG, because it does have a fairly steep learning curve, as we all know, but for players who are just getting started, believe it or not, there actually are some, this kind of behavior is okay, and I also don't think that bots can get much more sophisticated than that. Of course, I do believe there is room for improvement, which we're going to talk about, and I think how they could be implemented better, but also I think they're in a decent spot where they are for very new players. Now, I was very curious about something that I tested, and what I found was pretty surprising, and I'm not sure if everybody across the board has had the same experience as me, but essentially what I did on PlayStation was I disabled crossplay so that I would only be playing with PlayStation users, and it would effectively cut out the entire Xbox portion of that, and I also searched in like literally the deadest queue possible, and what I found is that it still wouldn't throw me in a lobby even after like 5 to 10 minutes, because it doesn't prioritize bots over real players, which is really interesting. The big takeaway from that is just because you queue up into some like really obscure lobby or at a really weird time of the day where not a lot of players are on, it's not going to give you like 10 real players and 90 bots. It actually doesn't function like that. There may be a cap on how many bots can be added per lobby. I know some other individuals in the community have had much different experiences with these bots in terms of like the mass amount that is in per lobby, but for me, I really didn't see too many. Also, another thing to keep in mind, bots are always going to be wearing default skins, right? When you first start out PUBG, all of that basic stuff you have access to, no like different helmet skins or anything like that will be applied, so you can easily identify a bot that way. That one just sort of looks like a new player. They're not going to be out here rocking the olive branch like $2,000 pan. They're going to have all basic equipment. When it comes to how the bots perform in gunfights, what I notice is that this pretty much all depends on the range at which the engagement is taking place. The farther away you are, the more like wild and inaccurate the bot is going to be. So if you're like right up close, then the bot is probably not going to miss too much. But if you are incredibly far away and you're in a sniping battle, the odds of that bot like hitting you in the head with a nice canine shot are so infinitely low, it may as well be zero. Of course, it's definitely not like fighting a real player at that distance where, you know, you guys are actually having a nice back and forth, and there is still that chance where, you know, that guy could line up a lucky headshot at you and kill you. But it's certainly better than the alternative where the bot would literally just aimbot you from 1,000+ meters away. Like that, at that point, you may as well just be playing against cheaters and not bots that are supposed to be designed for training. So in terms of this algorithm, the farther away you are from the bots, the less accurate they're going to be. And also, when it comes to their movement, their algorithm is somewhat easy to predict. Because they can't drive or do anything creative that way, the bots are programmed to find the fastest route to their destination, which is generally the inside of the safe zone. So when they're outside of the zone, usually like the thinnest end or whatever is the closest path in relation to where they are, you can pretty much always expect them to follow that exact route. And that's going to vary greatly depending on the map you're playing, what the terrain is surrounding you, and also what the circle is looking like in front of you as well. And one more thing that's incredibly important to know, I don't believe the bots actually pick from the loot pool in the map. So basically, I think the bots basically generate their own loot as the map goes on. So they're not really taking away resources from the players, but let's say it's like circle 2 or 3, they're going to have the appropriate amount of gear that a typical player would have at this point in the game. So they're not going to spawn in with everything, but they're also not going to have nothing at the very end either. They're basically going to generate their own loot in relation to where the game is at in terms of time and how much is left. Now, I want to get into what could be done about bots to make them a little bit better, some ideas I have for improvement, and I want to bounce these off you, and you guys can let me know what you think about these. First and foremost, I think giving them a better tool set of movement would go a really long way. I don't know exactly why in terms of development they're not able to have the functions of like leaning and crouching and stuff like that, or maybe even sprinting. I'm not sure if the bots can sprint or not, but if not, I think giving them the entire arsenal of, you know, regular player movement would be the most basic thing to work on. Because essentially a bot should be able to more or less replicate the situations that a real player is going to face, and typically that doesn't involve one player just standing in the middle of an open field doing absolutely nothing. Essentially just target practice that way, and they don't even present any sort of, they're not even a danger, they're just like an inconvenience more or less. So I think giving them the entire arsenal of the, you know, the standard movement would just be great. Also, giving them the ability to drive would be wonderful as well. Even if it's just as basic as, you know, a car that can only stay on the road path, I think that would still go a lot farther than just them being able to do nothing. I also think bots should be programmed to chase airdrop crates, not even to take away the equipment that a player necessarily wants to use, but to at least provide some sort of contention and then give them a purpose rather than just standing in the middle of an open field being an inconvenience. That would at least go a little bit in terms of serving a real gameplay function. There's a couple other things that in terms of like how they rotate into the zone that I feel like could be improved, but we'll maybe talk about that another time when, you know, the bots become more advanced. But I think right now the first iteration of them isn't too bad at all, especially considering that most people aren't even going to notice it unless they are like, I guess, watching YouTube videos and reading patch notes and stuff. But some players might notice it and some might not. If you guys have PUBG on console, I highly recommend you jump in and play this, and let me know what you think about them. Also, one more thing, I believe these bots are also going to be tested to be implemented on PC as well. Assuming it goes well on console, I can imagine they're going to use the same program of AI to also fill in the gaps where PC needs it also, because they're essentially having the same problems on both platforms, and technically it is a solution for both of these. Now, I don't ever think the bots are going to become sophisticated enough to even emulate a real player. I mean, you look at the bots on Fortnite, and they've been around for much longer than PUBG's bots, and still, they pretty much, they almost do effectively nothing. They'll build one thing and then run away. My final verdict, are the bots as bad as I thought they were going to be? Absolutely not. In fact, I hardly even noticed them at all. Like, the games played out pretty much regularly unless I was really fishing for them. And even when you're doing that, it's not guaranteed you're going to be able to find a lot of bots. I hope that PUBG takes this opportunity to listen to community feedback and see, you know, what they can do better with these bots. And do you guys like the idea of this or not? Like, what are you feeling about it as you've seen gameplay a little bit and sort of the entire breakdown of the situation? As the bots continue to develop and be distributed to more places, I'm going to let you guys know exactly what's going on with them. But after this experience, I'm really not dreading it at all. It wasn't nearly as bad as I imagined it was going to be. And I think that, like, the people that were super scared about having bots added and felt like it was going to ruin the game, I don't think you really have much to worry about at all, and at least as far as my experience goes. So take that for what you will. I hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. And also, if you want to go follow me over on Twitch, the link to that will be down below inside the description. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching again. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. I'll see you all on the next live stream or the next video. Take it easy and peace out.